You are now listening to the Insight Fantasy Sports Podcast.
Now, welcome back to the Insight AFL Fantasy channel. I'm your host, Bryce, aka BK. Nathan joining me, as always, the cola to my rum. I don't know if that's something you'd be diverging in, but yeah, just did your team reveal. Felt pretty good about that, and then we've had a look at mine and seen that we've had 5 uniques between the two of us, and half of them were just rookies. It could be kind of interchangeable, so we've gone a different kind of direction for mine. We've kept those sort of must-haves, but also given some other options that we sort of were on the fence on a little bit, depending on things like roles and scores. So what do you think, Nate?
Yeah, it's not throwing out any absolute curveballs or anything. That all the players in here, they've been in your side at some point over the preseason, so maybe you've bounced back and forth between, whether it's a Brayshaw or a Dawson throughout the preseason, one way or another. So, it should be easy enough to go through. We'll probably spend a bit less time talking about the ones we have in common. So, if you need a bit of information on a Clayton Oliver, you can go back to our last pod. Otherwise, we're just going to get stuck into what were the uniques between our two sides.
Great call. And obviously there are going to be those ones that I am genuinely bullish on as well. So where better place to start than the top? Number 1, Sick Dog. Had a off year last year by his standards. 80, not even 80, 87 average. Playing back, had sort of a lockdown role at the start, and then we saw him kind of go forward, which, isn't what you want from a fantasy standpoint. But obviously, Hawks getting those new defensive recruits in the form of Barras and Battle, people see that as a sort of license for him to spend more time forward, but I sort of see it as an opportunity for him to go back to his free man at the back, intercept marking, getting those +6s as well. And we saw that in the warm-up game, didn't we, Nathan?
Yeah, pre-season he spent time down back. Absolutely, that's what we want. If he's forward, you need to avoid him at all costs.
Yes.
Obviously, there's always going to be that concern with him. But that's nothing new for Sis. I mean, even when we knew he was playing down back, he's a sort of defender. He can give you a 40 some days. He can give you 150. He's not a consistent scorer. He's not reliable week to week. It's just over the course of the season, he should get you pretty good points. I'm probably with you. I think he should spend more time back. If ever there's going to be a concern, it's probably while they've got a couple of injuries forward early in the season. So if we see, and we get the free look in round 0, right? So if he's playing down back all of round 0, then I don't see why you wouldn't start him, really. It's a pretty solid pick.
I'm glad you brought up that round 0 with those Hawks, because, it's just a free license to give it a look. If you like what you see, get him in. D2 was another different one, but we both had this guy in at one point or another over the preseason. Dan Rioli made the move to the Gold Coast for what pick was it, by the way? Pick
something 6. Gold Coast don't care about their picks.
Yeah, they'll get them anyway. And a halfback under our man Dimmer, who we know loves a scorer back there. I think he'll get the kick-ins. I think he'll be the main man coming forward out of their defensive 50. And we've seen he's done it in the past at Richmond, hasn't
he? Yeah, he's a proven scorer. Look, is he going to probably finish the year in a team? I doubt it. But average of 83 or priced to 83, if he can push a 90, which I'm sure he's capable of, that's more than enough. Just ride him out until the bye rounds. That's when you upgrade him to someone else. So, and it's hard to see him going any worse than that either, right? Like, I don't see any reason why his scoring would drop. Obviously, last year, it's a bit difficult in a side that was struggling so much at times. Sometimes players get a bit disinterested as well. So I'm sure a change of scenery should do him good.
Yeah, nice change of scenery. Right on the beach somewhere, I think. Little apartment looking over the water for him, I reckon. And yeah, on that role, Sexton scored there last year, and Flanders, who is obviously a better player than Sexy Time, more on Rioli's level. He was scoring 116 average with 0% centre bounces, which Rioli won't be getting centre bounces, so I think that's the better comparable one to go with him.
Should be good. D4,
yeah.
or D3, sorry.
D3. Oh, well, it might as well be
Quickly touch
D4.
on him. Jaden Short, we both have had him basically all season. He's the only player at Richmond that should get a kick. Just put him in your team. Don't overthink it, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's that? 35% ownership I'm seeing there. So if you have him in the team, you're already one of the 35% still eligible for a car.
Yeah.
The other 2/3, no shot. So just starting. D4, you got. I'm not certain if it's Fraser. Fraser.
No, Fraser.
We'll find out. I'm sure the commentators don't really know yet, so we don't have to. What do you think about him?
Yeah, some commentators don't even know people's names in general, but yeah, 61 average. And I had to say to Nathan, I couldn't believe it was his first year last year. I thought he'd been a 2 or 3 season campaigner off that halfback, but no, did not look out of it in the slightest. Had that big score in pre-season as well, albeit without Dale there. But yeah, priced at 60, if he can, what would be a points make-up of that? Like, what, 10 kicks, 5 handballs, 4 marks and a few tackles or something like that, whatever his game is. And he's making you money, with those dogs.
Yeah, he doesn't have to improve massively on what he did last year. And we also saw him just improve as he got more experience. So in his last 5, he averaged 87. Now, he doesn't need to give you 87. It'd be very good if he does. If you know he's giving 87, put him in your team.
Yeah.
But if he can even just get close to that 80 mark, I mean, it's a pretty good pick. And I think it's a nice price point too, just to give you a bit of flexibility. I think there's not too many players around that 600K. There's lots around that 800K mark. So I think this probably helps you maybe in your forward line or midfield just to get a couple of extra players in that you might prefer.
And what dogs have got? I know they've got North round 1, and then I don't think they have the hardest fixture on. Am I right in saying that?
Or
am I just
I recall it being on the easiest side. I'll quickly look it up.
Yeah, but look, North round 1. That's how last year's winner got the car, just targeting those early fixtures as well. And obviously, this isn't as all in of a play, but yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of difficult fixtures in there. They do face Brisbane, Collingwood, Carlton, but they don't leave Melbourne too much. They've got just the one interstate trip before gather round. So they'll be under the roof a bit. That'll always help.
Yeah, can't be mad at that. D5, another one we shared into Koenig, said if he's getting full-time ruck, he's going in our teams. He got full-time ruck. I'm somewhat glad he scored low in the warm-up game. Kind of scared some people off, but real times, average 90, get him in. To ruck in your defense for 500k, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, the points didn't matter too much in the preseason game. Just the fact that he was playing ruck, that's enough for us to be happy. Yeah. Another one that, well, unless the game gets called off, we'll wait and see for that. But we should get a free look in round 0 as well. So
please.
Unless he has a disastrous performance, he's someone you should just start with.
Yeah.
D6, you got another player that's moved clubs. Down in
speaking of the Brisbane games, one of our mates, he's one I'm happy that we moved on to give him a crack. He's better than what he was getting at Brisbane. A really nice kick, can run for days. He'll have a spot on that Essendon wing. Sub-risk? What do you think sub-risk?
Maybe a little bit of a risk. I don't think he'd be a first choice. Like, he'd have to be having a pretty bad game. Usually your subs, especially a club like Essendon, they've still got a lot of young players too. So are you really subbing prior before you sub even like a Kako type who's looked good or something like that. A lot of the time the kids need the sub a bit more, and obviously injury half the weeks that's going to be your sub anyway, right? So
Exactly. 23 years old on Pryor as well. He'll be coming into that sort of prime of his career, and yeah, hopefully they'll see that kind of potential in him, and keep the faith. Essendon as well, another round zero look. Can't complain, especially with someone whose role it is for cash gen. It's much easier to watch them on those round zeros, isn't it? Because if you see someone whose role it is not so much to score, but to make you money, and they go way over their break even in that round zero game, drop it right down for round one. It's just a risk for free play, isn't it?
And that's one to think about. So with the premiums, like let's say it was going to be like a Lockie Neal or something, someone he's not going to go up in price. You basically just miss out on him for a week when he's got his early buy, and that's it. You point to a picture of him.
Yes, with the cup.
When compared with a rookie, first off, you don't care if you're missing a rookie. Like Pryor, you're happy to just not have his score for a week. It's not going to be a great score anyway. He's not giving you hundreds. But even more than that, their round zero score coming into their round one score as well, all of that cash gen essentially accumulates behind the scenes. I'm not going to pretend I know all of the maths behind how it works. But if he comes out and scores an 80 in round zero, he's effectively got an extra week's worth of cash gen before anyone else gets the chance to. So it's even better to have some of these round zero guys when they're your cheaper cash gen options.
Especially with Essendon, they don't have the bad buy as well with, was it Brisbane, Geelong, Sydney, and Hawthorn?
Is it Gold Coast? Might be Hawthorn. There's a few of them.
I think of the matchups, but anywho, not a bad buy as well, so it's not like you're going to be missing out, even if you were going to have them on field. D5-6, and we talked about them in the last pod. Bo and Reed, two guys that'll just get game time, have that job security, which is obviously the most important thing for your rookies, knowing they're going to play. You're not going to have to jump off someone at 295k or 230k, even worse, and try and find someone to replace them. That's just the stuff that ruins season. That crashes cars. That's a car crash.
They're really like these two are probably the same. I think Reed's 100% the safest. Allen maybe because he played pretty awful in the preseason game, but even then he's a kid. There's room for bad games if you're a kid at West Coast, so I'm sure he's fine.
And that's where you want to be having them in those preseason, not even making a toll in the season.
Looking at your midfield, you got Jordan Dawson there at M1, so someone that's scored pretty big in the past. Why have we chosen him in the end over some of our other primos?
Well, the big worry was his role with all those Adelaide midfielders kicking around. Crouch was still there. They've got the youngster in Sid Draper. Pete Link's come through. I'm pretty sure he'll have a clause 3.0, put me in the midfield in his contract somewhere. And so you're wondering, he's been that Mr. Fix-It in past. You throw him at key forward, if you need a goal, kind of like Sicily in that respect. Go to a wing, wherever he's sort of needed. But in all these practice and preseason games, he's been the main man in the midfield. He's had the most in the centre bounces out of all of those sort of Adelaide worries. And even when he wasn't, just watching him overlap run, you can tell his teammates are looking for him. And you can't really put a stat on it, but just from that eye test, they've been looking for him, giving it to him. He's been all over the ground. And obviously amazing kick inside 50 and can even kick goals himself too. Yeah,
I think he should be pretty good. He's down about 8 points on what he'd done in 2023 as well. So
there's
definitely room for him to have some upside, right? And we always look, even for these premiums, we want even just a couple of points of upside if we can. So it's good that he can do that. I think I agree with you. He should just be pure mid. If he does have those moments where he's Mr. Fix-It, I think it's more, he drifts either forward or back for the last couple of minutes of a quarter. I don't think it's going to be a serious role change or anything. It's not going to be when we're concerned about Sicily, for example, and we think he could just play a half in the forward line, it's not going to be like that. He's just going to sit there for a couple of minutes. That's it. And it's probably just replacing bench time anyway, which is good. Tim Tam Taranto, N2.
Well, I think his closest comparison would be to be to our man Jaden Shaw at the back. He's the only one over the age of 18 in the club midfield. He's done it before. He had that one 2020. It would have been 2023, wouldn't it, where he came in as a forward and went like 110 plus, wasn't it? 115. So we know he's
110 plus
got it,
over the season. In his pre-buy, he was averaging 125.
That is a complete and utter takeover. So again, which we touched on it sort of lightly in your team reveal, Nathan, in terms of when we're looking for value. I think the first thing for me is looking for people who have done it before, which you'll see throughout the team, who have just fallen off it a little bit, but have that role or opportunity to come back. And following on from that, it's those natural progression players who you can see moving up in their scores, but there's no evidence to, like, stone cold evidence that they have before, which is why I find it a lot safer in those guys that have the results on paper in prior years. Yeah,
absolutely. This is probably, I think, out of everyone in your team that I don't have, this is the one I'm the most upset about not having. I really want to be able to squeeze him in. I just think at that price, for a guy that's gone 110, I don't see why he wouldn't go at least 105 this year. I think it's a great pick.
That's that for Tiger Tim.
Next,
Oliver.
Oliver, just have him in. We're not going to talk about him. Sam Doherty we'll move on to straight away. He's one I had in my team a lot of this preseason. I was maybe a little disappointed in some of his preseason form, which I know we shouldn't overreact to. But he looks like he's pretty comfortable in that Carlton side. He's healthy, which is the most important thing for him. That's where his struggles have been. For a guy that's averaged, 120 before?
Exactly.
Probably a few years ago now, but should be good, right?
It's probably the last time he had a clean bill of health, I think.
Yeah, it's been he's had a lot of injury interrupted years. So,
and he's got that wing. Even then, I was hearing about it on the radio today. I'm not 100% sure that this Hollands experiment works out for Carlton as well. I'm not super sold on it. So he has that opportunity to drop back, even just into a pocket somewhere, to just get a bit more footy. But we were just talking about it with Taranto, a guy who's done it before, coming back from an injury which has lowered him, not quite to that 48 average it has on your screen, but brought him down, and it's a really pickable pick. So in that spot as well, Nathan, I want to get your thoughts on this. In my books, it was between Doherty, not so much Hollands after I thought about it, just because I don't trust that role, but we'll put his name in there, Doherty, Hollands, and your man Chera, who is, order them for us in 1 to 3, I reckon.
I think Doherty would have to be number one on that list just because I've got a lot more faith in him. I think Chera, for however many years people thought he'd take that next step up from being that mid-80s guy. And I think he had one season in 2023, he went 95. Other than that, he sort of struggled. And I think just as a player, he doesn't look great in the Carlton midfield. Like, obviously, he's not going to be doing what Cripps and Walsh do.
Yeah.
But I think at times he might fall out of favour in that midfield. They might want someone else running through there a bit more than him. That's a bit more speculation on my part, admittedly. But
I mean, they signed Jagger for a reason.
Yeah, well, exactly. Like, you might start giving some of these kids a go. I know he misses the start of the season, but that's probably the knock I'd have on Chera. Hollands, I think I'm with you that he should, like, it just makes, I don't know why they're putting him at halfback and Doherty on the wing. Like, Doherty's proven he can be an elite halfback in the AFL. Hollands, looks pretty good on the wing last year. I know he had an all right run back into the season at halfback, but it wasn't anything special at halfback. He was just all right. So let him take the wing. It's a bit more running. I'm sure Doherty probably prefers having less running involved in his role at his age. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Hollins. I think
because he was flying up and down that wing.
Yeah, he just looks a very capable runner. And at halfback, like, is his ball use that good? Like, he's not a bad kick, but I don't know if he's warranting that spot. And I'd be very worried about Holland's ability to score if he moves back to the wing. Whereas if that switch does happen and Doherty takes a halfback role, bonus, you know? So, yeah.
And even then, you look at the people playing that role that Holland was playing. You look at your Zorkos, your Sinclairs, your Nazes from your team, and those guys are averaging 100, if not upwards of it, and he'll be sitting let's say he keeps the spot, maybe 80. Do you think 75?
Oh, he can do more than that. But for Doherty or for Hollins, which one are we talking
Hollands?
about?
No, for Hollands at halfback.
Hollins.
Yeah.
Hollins probably scored. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably about the mark for him. I thought you were saying
No. What are we thinking for Doherty if he gets the role while we're on it?
Sorry, say that again?
No, what are we thinking if Doherty gets that?
If Doherty gets the halfback role, he goes 100 again. He goes back. He's not, like, I joke about him being old. He's 31. Like, that's not that old in footy terms these days. Like, how old's Zorko? Zorko would be 35, 36?
34.
Like, so I'm not concerned about that for Doherty. I'm sure
he's 36. Had his birthday recently as well, I think. Last month, at least.
Getting on a bit. All right. While we're talking about halfback roles, Dylan Shield at M5. He's one, again, similar to Holland. I'm worried about not so much his job security in the team. He's not going to get dropped. But is he a good enough kick to keep a spot at halfback at Essendon?
My answer to that is, who cares? A kick is straight to the other team is worth the same as a pinpoint kick to a teammate inside 50. If he's getting the footy, that's all that matters to us, which I think they will have. I have a feeling that they've said to him, this is like, it's kind of your spot to lose. And who knows, he might even surprise us. Which I'm feeling a little bit contradictory with Shield and Hollands, but Essendon have tried so many people in this role. Martin went great there, but he's just too sort of invaluable to just, keep locked back. He needs to be around, which is what he's doing. It reminds me a bit of what Dawson's doing as well at the moment, actually. But yeah, I think he's got it for now. Let's see what he can do. Another round zero look, and it's a good role to have.
Yeah, if he does secure a halfback spot, he's definitely going to improve on his average, right? So
which is where he went in the Pracky game,
and he's not too awkward of a price either, right? So if he does end up struggling a bit, because he's probably one of the more expensive mid-price options, it's pretty realistic. You could change him for a Will Day or for a Hollands or for a Pigling or whoever it might be, right?
We haven't included Day in either of our team reveals.
Yeah, I feel bad about that one. He was in my team for a long time too.
He was in both of our teams.
I think he just didn't spend enough time in the middle for him. They genuinely played him forward a bit. And when I heard Sam Mitchell talk about it, initially I was thinking, that's just a bit of talk. He just means the same way, a Petrarca spends a bit of time forward, But no, he was spending more time forward than mid. Yeah,
and he said it himself, Mr. William. He's come out and said he wants to play more forward. Do you really? Why? That's no good for my fantasy team.
Maybe he just doesn't care about us.
Yeah,
He's too busy wanting to just sit forward, maybe run a little less contact.
No, I don't think he's
not
that
getting
kind
in
of
our good books.
But on that, back to Shield. He scored 102 in the Pracky game against Geelong. 26 touches, 7 marks. Just that is what you want to be seeing. How many tackles? 3.
You'll find
3
plenty of it.
Yeah. Now on to who we got next? Oh, my man. Now
Eldrick.
I had written in my notes before any of the Mills news, before any of the Goulden news, I said I want this guy to leave Sydney. I want him to get out, get to a club, get some game time, because I have loved what I've seen with him in previous seasons, not just in practice games, but in real life footy, and I've loved it, and he just hasn't had the opportunity in that Sydney midfield, which is obviously fair enough. Who's he getting in over?
Yeah, he's probably one. I think anytime you see online Sydney fans talking about who they want in their team that isn't in it, it's always about Sheldrick, right? He's always the first name that comes up. So even if it's just because of injury, at least he gets a good month and a half just to play. And he's showing he can score pretty well when he actually is out there as well. So, yeah, at his price point, like, he's basically just a grown-up rookie, right? It's not even a mid-pricer.
Yeah,
it's a pretty good pick. I think if it wasn't for the injuries, right, you probably couldn't do it.
No, definitely not.
But, like, he could give you a 90 average for a month or two, you know?
Well,
that's realistic to him.
What is 448k? What is that actually like?
That's at 44 average. That's what he's priced at.
Oh, yeah, seriously.
Like, and if he's genuinely just going to play as a mid, like, surely 70 is probably a minimum, right? Because it's not a rookie coming into a midfield, right? Like, he's 21 now. He's had a couple pre-seasons. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good looking pick.
You know, I'm going to go out and say it now, Nathan. I wouldn't call it a bold prediction. I reckon Sheldrick, round 0, comes out, scores an 85 or a 90, and all of a sudden he is popping up in every single person's team in that, D5, D6 spot, depending on how your rookies are looking. But, yeah, I think he's one opening round game away from his ownership at the moment.
Yeah, it's one of those annoying things with opening rounds.
7.
I think when I'm building my team, I've probably trying to avoid some of these opening round players a bit more, because I'd rather try and squeeze them in after they perform rather than take them out from them doing something poor.
Well,
so
that's how
he's one. Yeah, like you said, if he scores 85, 90, he walks straight into my team. I don't know who gets the boot, but you make room for that, don't you?
Yeah. Well, what people in the top 10 have been doing, and I've sort of considered it, and I might still go with it, is they're building a team with round 0 players in it, and then as they go, someone will get 100 here, you switch them in for, that player similarly priced or someone you're leaning against, and then you can afford for that player you might have, structured your team around. If he goes and disappoints you, then you don't have to go with that whole restructure to work around it.
Yeah, it's definitely a way to do it, right? Like, especially once you're leaving the rookie territory, like, maybe you can still start at Zach Reed. You don't need to wait for round 0 for that. But if you're having, like, out of your team, the likes of a Pryor, Shield, Sheldrick, it's one way to look at it. Again, obviously, it doesn't matter, right? Like, that's just what feels right for you in your own comfort zone. Whether you want to make lots of changes at once, if you've got an idea of how you're going to structure your team, but that's one's just personal preference, right?
Exactly. Yeah, go with your gut, because there's nothing worse than looking back at fantasy season. You're thinking in the back of your head, "Oh, this guy's I think he's a really good." Point of difference player, but he's only owned by like 2%, so I'm not going to go with him. And then watching him go off, there's not many worse feelings than that, is there, Nathan?
No, it can be pretty frustrating. So going through the rest of your midfield rookies, so O'Sullivan, Ashcroft, and Langford, all in common with my team.
Yeah.
Um,
Speak for themselves.
we won't go too in detail, but basically,
No.
they're reasonable scorers and they've got job security. We're
Yep.
happy to have them.
Yep.
The other one you've got that is different to my rookie spot on the bench is Xavier Lindsay from Melbourne. What makes you choose him over some of these other rookie options?
Well, I've liked what he's shown in the preseason. I haven't been a, proper nuff that's been able to go to trainings or anything. It'd be one hell of a flight. But yeah, from what I've seen of him, not being afraid to get in, because I feel like could be like a really good uncontested player as it is, but that hasn't stopped him from, putting his head over the footy, getting that out for his team. And I think he's got some relatively good numbers from his junior leagues as well. I haven't got them on hand, but yeah, he's good for that. 310k, and I think Melbourne could look elsewhere for their subs as well if they want to give him a chance. But look, he's definitely in the equation for me. He might be one to wait a week and have a look at, though. I'm not against that as well. But his role in the team looks pretty secure, and I just like the way he goes about it.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad pick. Certainly one of those rookies in the mix, and we always find when round one teams are announced, there's one or two names we expect to be there that aren't, right? So there's a good chance, maybe it's randomly Langford or Ashcroft suddenly isn't playing, right? And then Lindsay just ends up in your team. Also touching on what you said before, so you went at 90 in the NAB League. So
Thank you. Yeah, that'll
decent.
put this away.
Decent scoring pedigree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your ruck line looks identical to mine.
As it should. As everyone should.
Sue you a bit there. I think you're just plagiarising.
I've overstepped, have I?
It's shameful. You should really just force those players out of your team. I think.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a Draper and Gawn combo. I reckon you got to go.
Yes.
And
Goldstein get to run.
Get him. I'm gonna have to double check. Has Goldstein retired, or is he still at Essendon? I'm not even certain. He's still at Essendon. Wow.
He's there.
All right.
What's he worth?
He's priced at 60.
600k. He's owned by 0.62% of players.
Yeah, it's not an option. The guy that took over from him at North, he's probably a good crack at being the top scorer in fantasy this season.
Yeah,
you've got De Koning, who looks pretty good. He's got that role, especially with Pitnet out injured. So any concerns over? I think that was probably one thing that put me off him a little bit after the first Cracky game. Was we saw De Koning spend a little bit more time forward when Pitnet would take over the ruck. And it was just, I don't know, put a little doubt into me, but it's nice that Pitnet's out of the way. Not that we encourage or support injuries, but we're kind of happy about it.
It's a silver lining, isn't it? But I think, did I see even when Pitnet was in getting the taps, did I see Tom still in the midfield standing under it at some stages?
He'd work in there pretty quick, wouldn't it? It was almost like a Luke Jackson situation when they
get out.
But nah, look, is their number one ruck? I think that's a pretty good pick, and there's a good 10 points of upside in him. Harry Boyd on your bench as well, I think speaks for itself a bit.
Sit him there.
He should play, given a lot of the Saints' injuries. He doesn't need to score like he was doing in the twos last season. He doesn't need to put out those sorts of numbers. If he did, that would be
or something.
Outstanding. But a lot of the time, your R3 is just a red dot anyway, right? Like, how many of these chief ruck options actually even play at all? So if you can even get a month of him playing, that's pretty good.
There have been two absolutely disgusting plays. I'm sure you'll be agreeing with me on them. One of them is, I suppose this was before the Pitnet news, but there were people talking about playing Boyd as R2.
Yeah, I never got behind that. I think maybe some of that at first with the Marshall injury news.
Correct.
We didn't know how long he would be out for.
Yeah.
So, and if Boyd's coming in, and it does look like he is the second option ruck,
Well, yeah.
at least he would get a month of solo ruck and you'd feel good about it. From what I'm hearing, Marshall's a good chance to play round one. Right. So, for all we know, Boyd's not even going to be selected. He might not. And if he is selected, it'll be a dual ruck setter. But yeah, you can't put that up because if he's at R2, what do you do when he gets dropped? Because it's going to happen, right? Like, it's hard to see him just holding that spot when all of St Kilda's stocks come back in. Marshall will go back to being solo ruck, and then you're stuck there with Boyd, and you've got to find 700,000 to get him up to someone worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're what, trading out a Taranto
primo that you really like, yeah.
So I think that's just going to give you, like, that's the sort of thing that would end your season.
Yeah.
So
in round,
just don't do
in
it.
round
Put
0.
him on the bench. Great bench option. Don't field him. You know, you can have a couple of weeks. Maybe if one of your R1 or R2 has an early bye, if you need to slot him in for a week to score, that's fine. But don't have him as your genuine R2. That's not what he's there for.
Yeah, and then on the flip side of that, going too cheap in your rock is people having a Jerry and a De Koning, and then going someone like a Brian or a Draper or some other mid-price rock. It's just, you don't need it when you have this cash gem option, do you?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a lot better. And if you're moving him up, then you're wasting your R3 spot. You're going to have a red dot. So it's one less player making cash.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to the forward line. A lot of the players in the forward line are pretty standard across most people's teams. Horne-Francis is probably the only real one on field, at least, that we need to talk about in detail.
Yes.
We've got Butters
yes,
out
we do.
injured. Definitely create some opportunity. We'd probably just want to see him in the midfield more. He's got a lot of talent. Like,
I could
has he got
talk
the
about
strength
this
to
guy
just be
for a
a
very
pure
long
mid, or
time.
like keep him forward a bit? That's probably the only question, right?
Do you think he's going to be F1 for this year?
I'm backing McRae for F1 personally.
Okay. Yeah.
I think he can go about. I mean, he was finding the ball against Port when no one at St Kilda was finding the ball. So you can only imagine in a game where Saints actually have possession a little bit, he'll rack up a lot more. But like, Horne-Francis should score pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, do you see him pushing 100 or maybe just a little under?
Yep. Yeah, I do. I think he's going to, develop. People have seen him as more of that high impact, low sort of disposal player, but I think, he's put those sort of rumours to bed now. You look at players like that as well. I saw somewhere it took Danger like 3 or 4 seasons to average over 89, which is what JHF has done in his third, I think he's in. And watching him in the Indigenous game, it's funny we're saying this about a guy that left a footy club because he didn't want to get in an ice bath, but he was showing some real maturity, some real leadership and almost composure in it as well. And I think, long may that continue. Like you said, Butters out, but I had him in before the Butters injury was there as well. He's just a bonus for me.
Yeah, I reckon a lot of the media talks a bit harsh on him. I don't know the last time you had an ice bath. It's not pleasant. I think he's got every right to complain.
No, I like an ice bath.
Oh, God, you're crazy. Absolutely crazy. All right.
But who else plays midfield for Port as well? You can have your Wineses
They'll still be
rolling through there.
Rose Eve, Wines, Drew, Horne-Francis. That's probably your main 4. Maybe Boak still goes in there from time to time. You know, you can chuck a couple extra, but I think he should get enough of a run through there. It'll be similar to when we're looking at like your Dangerfields and stuff, where he won't be at every CBA, right? It won't be quite like what a Zach Butters does, because he's got the ability to go forward. He's probably their best forward. Is the only sort of knock on him, right? Which isn't really a knock, but yeah, he should play midfield.
I think as well. I had something else on my mind. I was gonna say about it. I mean, yeah, kicks goals from the midfield. There was something else. If I remember it, I'll bring it up. But
Right. Well,
yeah,
in the
moving
time
on.
being, rest of your forward line. So we've got, I think, all
It's
five.
another
of these
copyright
other
strike, I
blokes
think.
Yeah, we're really going to have to talk to you after this.
Mm-hmm.
So McRae, Sanders, Smith, Daniel, those are pretty common in every team, I'd say. We got three of them that have moved to a new club. Sanders, who hopefully stops getting bevoed after the three that went to a new club were getting bevoed. And then Garcia just looks like, especially on the back of injury, he's got that midfield opportunity at St Kilda. So,
well, what did we call it? We called it the Bevo Rehabilitation Centre. These forward lines.
Yeah, the rehab centre.
Come here.
All recovering.
They need a hug.
They absolutely need a hug. Garcia loves a hug. He's a tackling machine out there.
Exactly. Oh, wow, that was smooth, dude. What number podcast is this for you?
Been doing this for years, mate. What are you talking about? On the bench, so Kako we've both got. Just he's going to play for Essendon, right?
That's it. And
he looks very lively in pre-season. He's probably not going to score.
Off camera, a small forward playing for a team that, in my opinion, aren't going to be anywhere near the 8. It's a scary thought, but I actually had a look at some of his junior numbers, and he looks like one that, yeah, like you said, he's lively. He wants to be, in and around it, and I think his numbers previously have shown that. Yeah,
he pushed mid-80s in his juniors, so
it's great.
He gets up the ground a bit, right? That's enough. Yeah. Like he's not going to give you. He's not a pure small forward, right? He'll play a bit more half forward, which I think that'll help us sleep at night.
Good for us, yeah.
Sam Davidson, we both have him. I think after that pre-season game, it's hard to not have him. That was outstanding. He's got a picture now. That's lovely.
That's very good, and it's not taken in his bedroom.
Not taken in his bedroom. We're just going to get. You got a few your midfield rookies. There's a few of them without a picture at the moment.
Oh.
So AFL Fantasy, get on it. We're nearly to the start of the season now.
We're at single digits. Single digits. Oh my goodness.
3 days to the season starts, or maybe 4 days till the season starts.
4 if my. Yeah, if the Brisbane game is off, pray for me.
You have your bunker ready in the backyard, living up there in Brisbane, or
I do. We've already got the work from home kit set up at work as well. They've given us the company laptops and whatnot to be working from because it is quite literally the calm before the storm up here.
Yeah, hopefully, it just ends up like that Simpsons episode and the asteroid turns into a little pebble, right? Hopefully that's what this cyclone is.
Or it just does a full 180 and goes to like New Zealand or something. They haven't got any footy there.
Yeah, we don't need New Zealand. Your last rookie there, Hugh Boxall, had a pretty good moment against Paddy Cripps in the pre-season. Just made him look like he weighed nothing. I think. Have you picked him purely on that, or is there a bit more to it?
I might as well have, because now that you say I remember it, you little nitwit. But going into their game against who was it in the prison? Port?
Against the Port game or the Carlton game?
In the in the Port game. No, the second one. I was keeping an eye on. Yeah, it was between him. It was between Hall and your man Hasty. I think we can safely put Hall back in the drawer. I don't think he's going to be getting a role good enough to get into our team, and I think he's a massive sub risk with that. What's that look you're giving me?
No, I'm nodding my head. I agree with you.
You just mad one of your young boys ain't getting a run.
I think he's an okay player, but
no, I'm not saying he's not.
If he's got a role, it's he will be more of a small forward, which isn't even his natural position anyway. So, yeah, I'm with you. You can't be doing Hall.
So I think you'd know better than me on these young Saners roles. What's the sort of main comparison between the two?
Boxall, long term, I don't know if he holds a spot. Not to say he has to hold a spot long term to be in our fantasy teams.
Mm-hmm.
He's just a solid mid. For his age, he's got a really big body as well, right? Like you don't shrug off Cripps with a skinny little 18-year-old body very often. So I think he looks good there. Hasty, which is the rookie I've preferred, I think he's got probably a more fantasy friendly role off halfback, and I probably trust his job security a bit more as well. I think long term I can see him holding a spot because it's not as simple as Sinclair comes in and takes his spot. Like there's a couple other names I would have leaving that Saints back line before Hasty leaves. So yeah, I think Boxall should be a solid pick. You know, but probably one of those ones you see the round one teams. Maybe you shift it to someone else, which we'll need to look at for a lot of these rookies, right? Like a couple of them won't be there round one. We know that.
Yeah, so it happens every year. It's just how well you prepare to move those rookies that aren't going to score along and get those ones that do impress you in, and that's really the sort of pillars to starting that run up to the top 100, isn't it? And another thing I found interesting as well with that sort of Boxall Hasty debate, your man Steele was on radio not long ago, and he said Hasty's currently in the 22. That's your captain there, giving you that faith, which I put a lot of I don't think Steele's the type to wind up on an interview, is he? No,
he's not one that chases headlines. But even Joey Montagna was saying Hasty was looking great. He was the first name that came to mind for him to talk up when. For a lot of people, Garcia was probably the first name around the club. So yeah,
I think it's one of them as well, because I've got a few like sort of golden rules for myself this year. One of them is around not making up roles for players, just thinking, can he please do this, and then he doesn't, and you're left in the mud, just going for a safer pick around that. And my other one around it, which is a mistake I've made previous, funnily enough, with two of the boys in this team now, with Sanders and with bloody Sheldrick, is not picking those guys you know are gonna get the time. Like their role might not be as good, they might not be as naturally high scoring, but you just need them to get minutes, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's not even minutes, it's more just games. Consistent run of games.
Consistent games and not getting subbed way too many times.
Yeah.
So, overall, how are we feeling with that team?
Oh, well, it's funny. Because we put this together to have some little different points to talk about, but there might be a few I might actually hold on to. Like, you've convinced me on Taranto a bit more, and Rioli, who we had in the start, I'm really starting to think, why did we take him out, especially with the lack of sort of defenders? So there are some.
It might have been that ankle injury he had where he missed a week or two of training, but like it's not keeping him out. Like he's already playing.
Yeah,
I think that's probably one thing to do in pre-season too with our fantasy sides, right? Just sometimes just chuck different players in there, see how it feels, right? So
it's the vibe.
Exactly.
How do we not have a soundbite of that yet?
We will have that for the next podcast because we will say that plenty of times.
There was another one I was thinking of that we really needed. Fuck. I'll remember that. Because there was another one.
Yeah. We'll improve the production value as we go along.
I actually scrolled through them and I was like, no, why is it not here?
Oh gosh.
I'm having a quick peek at what Rioli did against Sydney. He went Rioli 87 still, and I feel like that's disappointing. I feel like I could have seen more from him on that 87.
Yeah, I mean, again, he's won in a preseason game. He's not fighting for his spot, right?
He doesn't improve himself. He'll have a jog. Oh, footy. Yeah, right. I'll give that off. You guys go.
Just have a bit of fun with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of, that's been another one done. Yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm hoping for some footy in a few days' time, and I'm hoping that my roof stays on and we can keep
Fingers
pumping
crossed.
these out to you. You know what my fear was for this? Because it's happened a couple times during the day. We get 45 minutes through the pod, and then just everything just shuts off.
Oh god, that would be awful.
But regardless, we're planning on. When are you planning on releasing this? Probably in a couple of days. We'll have yours to put out. Oh no, we've put yours out, and then put this one out, and then get
Yeah, it's fun.
a preview in before the opening round game, whenever that may be, just to sort of give you a watch list of who else we're looking at, some people we might not have had in our sort of teams, because it's only 44 players we've talked about in here, isn't it?
Yeah,
Well,
there's
even
there's
less
a few
than
that we
with some of
can
the
count
in
on.
common.
Yeah, there's plenty more to talk about that we're going to be watching closely.
Absolutely. So we'll be previewing them. We'll try and get a few watch-alongs happening throughout the year as well, so you can have, less Kelly Underwood in your
Yeah.
ears and more fantasy chat. I think that's what everyone wants to hear, right? There's no...
Oh, it would be good to talk fantasy. I don't know if people prefer listening to our voices
That's
over
true,
Kelly
yeah.
Underwood's.
That's fair.
Maybe
fair.
that's even a
Takes-
downgrade. I'd like to think we're
Probably.
better, but who knows? We'll see how it goes. Maybe we'll ditch the fantasy chat and just commentate for a quarter. See how that goes.
Just to-
We'll leave our podcasting. We'll just take over Channel 7, start a new career there.
have a taste of Sunday afternoon at a Norwood Oval or something.
Oh,
That's where we'd be going. But yeah, we'll have that preview show, and then after the round's done each week, we're planning on having that review, have a look back at the rounds before, clown out. What is it? I'm looking forward to constructing our Hall of Lame. That's a big one for me.
Yeah, you love
Each
that.
week, a new nominee, and we might even have some awards at the end. Dude. There's so much to talk about. Stay tuned on the socials as well. You can see them on the screen, or for the audio listeners, BK_IFS for me. And fantasy, I think we all know how to spell that. Nate, spell Nate, and then the letter O to keep in touch. I'm going to be putting out my season predictions. Give me a bold prediction from yourself.
A bold prediction.
On the
Gold
fly.
Coast bottom 4. Let's go with that.
Whoa!
I get a bit sick of all the talking up Gold Coast. I think it's just this time of year, everyone's so optimistic about Gold Coast, and they're gonna take that next step. It's like, why? Why are they gonna take the next step? They can still suck. Maybe they'll just suck forever. They can be bottom 4. There's only really one spot up for grabs. I'd say most people would have Richmond, North, West Coast in there. Maybe Gold Coast is the last spot. What about
Yeah,
yourself? What's your bold call?
I've got Sydney out of the 8.
Oh, all the way out of the 8.
Yep, straight down. And it sucks because AFL put their official sort of one out. I'm not sure if you saw that on Twitter. And my bold call for all of this was putting Freo up in top 4. I think they've got to. And then they
That's
put
not
one
bad.
out that's there. And now I'm copying them.
I don't think
horrendous.
Freo top 4 is a bold call. I think that's probably what most people
They're $12
have.
to win the comp.
Yeah, they're a good team. They've got such a good
Exactly.
list. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, they didn't even make the 8. But anywho,
They
thanks
should've.
all for watching. Yeah, leave a like on your YouTube. You can comment on Spotify now as well for the audio listeners on there. Leave your thoughts. We'd love to hear it and read through. Subscribe to the rest of the Insight Fantasy gang, and we'll see you in the next one, hopefully before round 0 starts. Take care, guys.